One day, a merchant gets lost in the woods and finds a castle where a hideous creature resides. Then, when he steals a rose for his youngest daughter Belle, the creature decides to take him as his prisoner and lets him go home to say goodbye to his family. So, the merchant shares the story with his children, but Belle has no intention of letting him go back to that place. Inside a house, a woman reads the story of Beauty and the Beast to a girl and a boy. Once upon a time, a widowed merchant worked hard for his 6 children, 3 daughters and 3 sons. His 3 prized ships carried all his wealth, but he lost his riches to a storm out at sea. After a month, the merchant and his family are evicted from their house. All the merchant can do is watch as their possessions get taken away, leaving only the most precious, a ship replica. His 2 daughters, Anne and Clotilde, complain about losing their luxuries. But when his reprimands fall on deaf ears, he instead searches for his youngest daughter Belle. Outside the gates, commoners gather and talk about the family's downfall. A maid speaks with Tristan, one of the merchant's sons, and warns him not to let Maxime, his brother, spend what remains of their fortune. Meanwhile, Anne and Clotilde ride the carriage and hide their faces as the commoners laugh at them, annoying Maxime. The merchant finds Belle in the garden, offering a flower to her mother's statue. When the merchant approaches her, she hugs him and says she'll be living in the countryside as it'll be a new start for them. During the first nights, Belle stayed up to listen to the sounds of the countryside. Then eventually, she and her brothers cleaned the garden and fixed their house. Unfortunately, her sisters struggle to adjust, and it doesn't help that Belle is cheery about their new life. In the garden, Belle is hanging some clothes and sheets when their father arrives on horseback, sounding happy. In fact, he has good news. The mermaid, Belle's mother's favorite ship, has been found and will be returned to them with its cargo intact. The siblings are overjoyed at this news, especially Anne and Clotilde, who decide to list the items they want their father to buy. Then, the merchant asks his successor Maxime to come with him to town. While everyone is happy, Belle isn't, and she quietly goes to the garden with her father following after. She confesses she'd like to stay in the countryside longer because she knows that once they leave, they'll all return to their usual lives. Then, as the merchant tells Belle she'll eventually want to start her own life, Anne and Clotilde interrupt them with a list of items. So, the merchant also asks Belle what he should bring back for her, and the lady replies she only wants a rose. At the port, Maxime finds his father and his old friend Dumont arguing. As it turns out, the mermaid and its cargo will be sold to fulfill their debt. Despite the merchant using his former influence to persuade Dumont, the latter is firm. Maxime threatens to beat Dumont up, but his father stops him. Realizing that his father no longer has power, Maxime storms off. The merchant spends the rest of the day searching for Maxime, and he eventually arrives at a pub. Inside, a clairvoyant Astrid reads tarot cards for her partner Perducas. His patience grows thin as Astrid tells him she sees a man who will carry important news, demanding she prophesy something exciting. But Astrid points out she can't lie and reminds him that she predicted his scar. Astrid reveals the second card and claims fate will smile at Perducas. So, the man interprets it as him getting rich. Downstairs, the merchant asks the keeper about Maxime, but when he utters Maxime's name, Perducas' ears perk up. The keeper warns the merchant to leave immediately, but it's too late. Perducas and his men surround the merchant, as they've been looking for Maxime for months. Meanwhile, Astrid reveals her third card, the Hanged Man. The merchant initially ignores Perducas' claim of Maxime's debt, but he and his men take out their blades and threaten his life. Fortunately, the keeper points his gun at Perducas to buy the merchant some time as he slips out of the pub through the back door. Perducas runs outside with his men to intercept the merchant, but he's too late. The merchant has already taken his horse and departed through the wintry forest, but the trip proves brutal. When the merchant's horse slips down a slope, he's forced to abandon the injured animal, trudging onward until he finds a glimmer in the dark. But then, he also slips down a cliff and falls hard. After recovering, he heads to a dark castle looming in the distance, its door slightly ajar. He peers inside and announces that he's lost his way. Strange creatures and a magical dining table surprise him, and he considers himself dreaming. With platefuls of food and after asking for permission, he eats and gets drunk. Then, as the candles light up, chests containing everything his daughters listed, except Belle's rose, suddenly appear. As he inspects the goods, his injured horse enters with its legs already bandaged. Awestruck, the merchant loads the chests onto the horse and leaves the castle. However, outside, he stops by a rose tree. Remembering Belle's request, he plucks one rose. Suddenly, a face of stone roars from behind the bushes. Above, a beast pounces on him. The beast growls and laments how the merchant had to steal despite his gifts. The merchant says he only wants to give the rose to his daughter Belle, whom he loves more than anything. The beast then gives him time to say goodbye to his loved ones and to return to the castle by saying, "more than anything in the world," to his horse. If he fails, the beast will kill his children one by one. In the blink of an eye, the merchant finds himself lying on the snow with his sons looking for him. Back at the house, he retells the story. Despite his children's initial disbelief, he takes the threat seriously. Then from the shadows, Belle emerges. Later, the merchant approaches a guilt-stricken Belle, who decides to not be the cause of her father's demise demise after her mother died during childbirth. So, Belle locks her father in her room and leaves, begging her siblings not to forget her. In the woods, Belle asks the horse to bring her to the beast's castle, saying the words, "More than anything in the world." The woods part, revealing an enchanted path. Along the way, twigs harshly cut Belle, and she loses her white ribbon. Finally, she arrives at a garden guarded by stone giants. Beyond stands the castle with its doors open for her. Walking around, Belle reaches a bedroom where she finds a gown. As she inspects the gown, she notices her wounds. She then dips her hands into a small pool, where her wounds are healed by golden light. Belle wears the gown and paces toward a chiming clock, with the beast trailing her. When she feels his presence, she introduces herself as a sacrifice in exchange for her father's life. The beast just orders her to sit and eat, so she can regain her energy and wander around his estate. Scared, Belle cries and begs to die already, but instead, the beast wants to watch her eat each night. He says if she tries escaping, the woods will trap her. On her wine glass, Belle sees the beast's reflection, and she yelps in horror, grabbing a knife. However, the beast quickly disappears. When Belle returns to her room, reclusive creatures called Tadams flee out of sight. That night, golden light from the rose tree washes over Belle as she sleeps, with voices telling her to come to the mirror. In her dreams, Belle sees reflections behind the mirror, which shows a memory. Two women hurry downstairs to meet some men and their pack of hunting dogs. The prince approaches and pulls the princess for a kiss, but his hunting partners joke about how undeserving he is because he failed to catch a doe. The princess asks when he'll stop hunting, but one man shows her a golden arrow they'll use to hunt their greatest trophy. As the men leave, she grows disturbed about the animals they've hunted. Later in her chambers, the princess laments the prince's indifference, begging him to stop hunting the golden doe as she feels terribly lonely without him. He agrees, but only if she'll give him a son. When Belle awakens, the beast is beside her, but he disappears, leaving her startled. By the window, there's another gown for her to wear. As she wanders around the estate, Belle learns icy walls fringe the place. Suddenly, a doe catches her attention and Belle chases it. Although it zooms through the woods, the doe appears to wait for her, but then it vanishes and leaves a trail of golden dust when Belle reaches the rose tree. Spotting a pathway, she peers inside to find withering flowers and a woman's statue resembling the princess. To Belle, another woman previously lived and died in the castle. Belle spends the day wanting to know her secrets. At dinner time, the beast asks if she likes the gown, but Belle is just indignant over his breach of her privacy. She wonders if he'll join her for dinner, but he doesn't want to. Pointedly, Belle asks him to decide her fate instead of toying with her. The beast then makes an offer. If she accepts him wholly, she'll have everything she desires. But Belle is just disgusted. With his pride bruised, the beast roars at Belle and states that one day, she will be his. He leaves, and Belle returns to her room, fuming about teaching him some manners. That's when a Tadam startles her. She quickly recovers from her surprise and finds a rag doll left for her, which she puts on her bedside table. That night, Belle dreams again. She sees the prince and princess surrounded by an audience, announcing their kingdom will soon have an heir. While the two dance, the princess asks the prince not to forget his promise about the golden doe, but he stays silent. As the dream continues, Belle sees herself dancing with the prince. Beneath the rose tree, the golden light emanates from the woman's statue. The next morning, Belle wanders around the castle again and spots the Tadams trailing her. As she accidentally scares them away because of a spider that crawled on her face, she notices the stairs that spiral up a tower. During dinner, the beast apologizes for his previous behavior. Missing her family, Belle offers a deal. Let her visit her family in exchange for a dance. The beast calls her bluff, but she remains firm, and so, the two dance. Belle doesn't seem scared to dance with the beast, and they let loose until they're dancing like the prince and princess in her dreams. Belle leans against the beast's chest, and he asks if she could love him. But Belle pulls away and reminds him of their deal. Sensing the beast won't keep his promise, Belle grows angry. For her, no matter what the beast does, he's just a monster who will never have her. Stung by her words, the beast leaves. That night, the beast hunts a boar for dinner. Belle trails him to his room, where she sees him devouring the boar. Disgusted, Belle flees to the ice wall. The beast then notices Belle as she escapes and pursues her. As Belle runs across a frozen lake, the beast catches up to her and pounces, cracking the ice from the force. The beast asks if she's repulsed and attempts to kiss her, but the ice shatters, and Belle falls into the water. Luckily, the beast is quick to save her. The next morning, the beast leaves a rose in Belle's hand, waking her. He'll finally let her visit her family one last time, and the news fills her with excitement. The beast fills a vial with magic water and gives it to Belle. He says if anything happens to her, she can use the water. As Belle prepares to leave, the beast asks her to return as he will die without her, worrying her. Belle returns home on horseback and finds that an armed Maxine has barricaded the door. Inside, she's glad to see her brothers but is concerned about their weapons. And that's when her brothers begin arguing. After stopping her brothers from fighting, Belle finds Clotilde and Anne upstairs, learning about their father's condition. Inside the merchant's room, she finds that he won't wake up, and she weeps. Meanwhile, Maxime finds a gem from Belle's clothing and plots to ransack the castle. Tristan tries stopping him, but Maxime knocks him unconscious and departs with their brother, Jean-Baptiste. Belle falls asleep beside her father when the golden light washes over her. In her dreams, she sees the golden doe. Finally, the prince and his friends track it down and they pursue it through the forest. Eventually, the prince gets a clear shot of the golden doe near the castle and he lands the golden arrow. Cheers erupt as the prince walks to shoot the golden doe again, but then it transforms into the princess, the golden arrow sticking out of her chest. The prince then holds her, and in her dying breath, she confesses she's a forest nymph who just wanted to know what love is. Sadly, all the prince can do is cry, begging for forgiveness. Overhead, storm clouds brew, for the prince has enraged the god of the forest, the princess's father. The princess begs him to spare her beloved as her dying wish, and then she breathes her last. From the prince's body, roses bloom. The god of the forest turns the prince into a beast, only to be saved by a woman's love. At the same time, the princess's body becomes the rose tree. Meanwhile, Jean-Baptiste and Maxime arrive at the border of the beast's kingdom. Then, Perducas and his men show up, and Maxime offers to lead them to an abandoned castle full of treasure so he can clear his debt. Using Belle's horse, Maxime opens the enchanted path and leads Perducas through. Back home, Belle awakens. She remembers her vial of water and uses it to cure her father. Thankfully, he wakes up and Belle embraces him. The merchant notices something has changed in her. Tristan and his other sisters arrive, and the women delightfully hug their father. In the beast's kingdom, Astrid senses danger everywhere, but Perducas underestimates it. As they wander, Astrid finds the rose tree and follows the golden light. Whispers keep calling her until she spots the princess's statue and the golden arrow, which she removes. Back home, as Belle's about to leave, Tristan informs her of Maxime's treachery. Then, horror grips her as she realizes the time. Sensing the unwanted presence, the beast observes his surroundings. Astrid returns while the men chop a tree down, warning Perducas they need to leave and giving him the golden arrow. But he responds angrily and threatens to push her off the precipice, no longer believing her prophecies and thinking she'll return to the castle later to steal the treasure. Instead, he tells his men to continue. They force the castle's wooden door open and take everything they want, including gems from statues. Finding food on the table, Perducas scoffs at the notion of an abandoned castle. Perducas then calms his men as there are more floors to steal from, all while the beast watches them, seething. Meanwhile, Tristan and Belle are in the forest when Belle finds the white ribbon she lost on the way to the castle. Despite Tristan's calls, she walks through the twigs blocking their path and hurts herself. Desperate, Belle invokes the god of the forest, wishing only to return to the beast. As Belle cries, the twigs slowly part for her, revealing the enchanted path. Perducas and his men leave the castle with bags of treasures, gloating at Astrid. She just prophesizes they'll both die. Despite that, Perducas ignores her. One of Perducas' men lags behind and sees a stone giant waking from the earth. The rest are some distance away when they hear his cry. Then, through the fog, the stone giant emerges, snatching the running guy and throwing him on the ground. The men shoot the giant, and it falls back. But around them, other stone giants, who are actually the prince's friends punished by the god of the forest, wake from their slumber. The beast stands on one giant's shoulder, watching as all the stone giants stomp on Perducas' men. With no other choice, Perducas and the others flee. Tristan and Belle finally arrive, and Belle knows the beast will kill the intruders, including her brothers. When the giant topples the fleeing intruders, Maxime tells Jean-Baptiste to leave and beg for Belle's forgiveness. But then, Belle arrives with Tristan, and she runs to intercept the giant's attack, forcing the beast to make it stop. Sensing the opportunity, Perducas takes Belle hostage. With her as a bargaining chip, Perducas tells the beast to let him go. His blade wounds Belle's neck, and her blood causes roses to bloom, distracting Perducas. Belle then breaks free, and the beast attacks Perducas. As the beast approaches to kill Perducas, Belle stops him and pleads to remember his humanity. With the opening, Perducas stabs the beast in the chest with the golden arrow, and the beast falls. Around them, the giants crumble as the sky turns to gold with the god of the forest's power. Belle calls her brothers for help as Astrid takes Perducas away. Vines sprout from the earth and pursue Belle and her brothers, who are carrying the beast back into the castle. Astrid and Perducas run as the giants fall apart, but when Astrid trips, Perducas hesitates to help her. Before a crumbling giant topples over Astrid, she mutters that his fate will be worse than hers. Belle and her brothers reach her room, barely closing the door on a vine. They carry the beast into the water, but he's not breathing. Suddenly, vines break the windows. Maxime tells Belle to stay by the water as he and their brothers defend them. Belle then puts the golden arrow out, causing the beast to roar in pain. Relieved that he's opened his eyes, Belle jokes about missing dinner. Although he's weak, the beast asks Belle if she could love him, and Belle simply says she already does. Her tears fall to the water, and all the vines freeze and vanish. From the water, golden light blooms and surrounds the beast's body. At the same time, Perducas stops in his tracks as roots form under his feet. While the beast turns back into being human, Perducas screams in agony as he turns into a tree. In the room, the hiding Titans transform into regular hunting dogs. Meanwhile, the princess's statue appears to smile. And that's the end of the story, says Belle to her children. As she tucks them into bed, they wonder about Belle's siblings. Belle assures them they all lived happy lives too. Her father, the merchant, started a flower business. Belle bids them goodnight and leaves, finding her father downstairs asleep. She kisses him and goes outside to meet their dogs. Belle waves at her husband as he stands in a garden full of beautiful flowers. Her father wakes up and looks out the window, smiling at the sight. Then, Belle approaches her husband, the prince, and in the sunset, amid the flowers, they kiss.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.